Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a pure 12 build for the Conjuration School of Wizard in Baldur's Gate 3. One of the more forgettable subclasses. It does have some cool abilities, however. Like at level 2 you get a create water spell, which obviously doubles our cold and lightning damage. We also get a teleportation skill at level 6, and at level 10 we get the ability to not break our concentrations when we're using them on conjuration based spells. Unfortunately, the highest level, most powerful damage spell option that we got is Cloudkill. However, there's another spell that we can actually pair this with to make it very powerful. So I'll be taking you through the full build here, starting with our cantrips. Now, I really like to have Mage Hand on this type of build. You can throw water bottles so we don't have to use our action on Create Water. You can also throw health potions so we can get a bit of a healing team up, because we can drop potions for free. Now I also got Bone Chill on here because this can stop targets from receiving healing, and Firebolt's nice because sometimes you just need to explode something, and it's got the highest damage die. We also got for spells, Mage Armor, highly essential there, boosting our armor class by 3, Shield, which can boost our armor class by 5 as a reaction, Find Familiar, you can use the Raven to be able to blind people, Thunderwave, push back, knock them off ledges, Long Strider if you don't have anyone else in your team with it. This is a very essential boost, giving everyone a +3 movement speed, which is really big. If you got someone on your team with it already, Chromatic Orb or Grease can be good options as well. And Magic Missile is kind of our main damage option. It's guaranteed damage, which is amazing. Now for our ability score spread, I like to go with a spread of, I like to go higher into the dexterity and go 16 dex, 14 constitution, and 16 intelligence. You can swap the constitution dexterity scores. It's tough though, the wizard has the least amount of health, and having a boost to the constitution is nice, but going first in combat and also getting an increase to your armor class, I think is a little bit better. And level 2 is when we get to take our subclass here, so that gives us that special minor conjuration create water, which does not consume a spell slot. And we also have the conjuration savant there, which makes it so that your conjuration spells are cheaper. We can learn anything from a scroll, so it's not super important, but I got Long Strider and Ice Knife, which can be cast when we're silenced. Once we get to level 3 here, we get our actual conjuration spell, Cloud of Daggers. This is honestly not bad because it's guaranteed damage. This will always hit the enemy, so it's good to put in doorways and things like that where enemies will end up running through. I also like to have either Misty Step, Scorching Ray, or Hold Person at this point. We're going to go with the Conjuration spell, so we'll go Scorching Ray and Cloud of Daggers. However, Hold Person is probably the best choice here. And we're going to throw in Scorching Ray just for guaranteed damage. And stats, or going with spells as such works well. Level 4 gives us another cantrip. Shocking Grasp is great to get away from enemies. Also going to mention Friends here if you're the face of the party. It's a really good spell to have. And a Minor Illusion, you can group enemies together. I also do want to mention Ray of Frost for kiting enemies, reducing their movement speed, but Shocking Grasp is great. And for the next level 2 spells, we'll be selecting Hold Person, a very valuable spell, and Misty Step for the teleportation. And we're going to prepare Misty Step or the Hold Person. For our first feat at level 4, Alert is really good, especially on a wizard. Going first in combat can mean that we can get away from harm's reach, or also crowd control enemies that may end up causing us issues. Also, we could go with an ability score improvement on our intelligence, but I think Alert is the best choice here. Going first in combat is just so powerful, and we can do that really easily with this spell, or this feat. Level 5 gives us our most important spell here, Counterspell. It's an essential one, take it. Basically, it makes it so that your team doesn't get hit by a spell once per turn as a reaction. Highly valuable. It's one of the best spells in the game. I also like Lightning Bolt. Now, some people prefer Fireball, but we got Create Water, so we're going to use that to set up our lightning. Because if you hit a target that's wet from Create Water, they take double cold and lightning damage, so we double up this Lightning Bolt to do twice as much damage. Really nice, and it can also set up shocked surfaces, which will also damage the enemy as well. Later on, we will spec into some Encrusted with Frost, where we can use the Create Water to freeze targets in their tracks. Now, at this point, I think it's best to throw on Counterspell, and you can, I like to have Mage Armor there, but if you have, you can buy a bunch of scrolls of it to keep yourself from preparing the spell. You can always swap these around any time as a wizard. Level 6 gives us our B9 Transposition. Teleport to a nearby unoccupied space, or swap places with an ally. It eats your entire action, though. Keep that in mind. But it's a teleport that you can use outside of combat. It does have a long rest cooldown, so you can also get a recasting of this if you cast a conjuration spell. So using something like the Find Familiar, which is a ritual spell and doesn't cost spell slots, can restore this so that we don't have to wait for that long rest. So that's nice. Also, Cloudkill, you can recast that as it's a free recast, or Call Lightning, and you'll be able to get this back for free. Once we get to our next level here, I like to have Haste. This is a spell that's very powerful, but not everyone uses Haste because it can break your concentration. You can end up really in a bad spot. Sleet Storm is a conjuration spell, so I'm going to grab that, and I guess Glyph of Warding, especially if you're a half elf, you can drop the sleep glyph at your feet and put everyone around you to sleep. We're going to prepare the following spells there and continue on our merry way. I like to have Lightning Bolt there, it's just so good to have for damage. Level 7, we can get our actual conjuration minor elementals here. Makes a lot of sense. Also, Everett's Black Tentacles is another conjuration spell, so I'm going to go with that, although I do prefer having Ice Storm, evocation spell. Doesn't fit thematically here, but it's the better option. May as well grab that next turn. The thing is, the ice methods can explode and create ice surfaces. This can create ice surfaces, and a chains would create water. So it actually fits well within this build because water and ice pair very well, making surfaces that enemies slip and break their concentrations on. Be mindful, it will break our concentration, and at level 10, it's one of the only ways to break our actual special concentration that we get. Level 8, we're then going to take our conjuration, Everett's Black Tentacles. Dimension Door is a conjuration spell, but yeah, I would actually probably prefer to have Wall of Fire over it. Actually, we already have a concentration with Everett's Black. Yeah, this is a tough one. There's nothing like super thematic here. You could go with, I guess, like the Fire Shield spell, just to give ourselves something else to pair with the cold or the water that we're going to be able to set up. And we'll prepare the minor elementals here. And for the feat, I would recommend grabbing an intelligence increase at this point. We're a spellcaster, so we want to have our spellcasting stat as high as possible. Level 9 gives us Cone of Cold. Amazing spell because create water makes this a 128 damage potential. Crazy stuff. And we're also going to take Conjure Elemental because the water elemental's main punch will set up double damage on Cone of Cold, which is really powerful, and we're using our actual conjuration spells. Woohoo! We're going to prepare both those. It's amazing to have both. You don't have to use a Conjure Elemental level 4 spell slot if you don't like it, but it's an option. Now here we get an interesting one. We get our focus conjuration. So damage dealt while you're concentrating on a conjuration spell will not break your concentration. So if we slip on ice, that still will break your concentration, but we don't break it from damage. Now our list of our spells that actually get applied from this is quite small. We got Arcane Gate, level 6 spell, the Cloud of Dagger spell, which we took previously, Cloudkill, which is oddly enough our best choice here because we can use Hero's Feast, which is another conjuration spell, and make this that doesn't hurt our entire team. And what's great about that is everyone that runs into it's going to take damage. So honestly, not a bad strategy. But this also does apply to Flaming Sphere, Fog Cloud, Sleet Storm, Stinking Web, and Stinking Cloud and Web, I should say. The other funny thing is, Spirit Guardians is conjuration, but it does not apply to it, unfortunately. So multiclassing, womp womp. So funny enough, the two best conjuration spells, Hero's Feast, Planar Ally, and even Spirit Guardians, 3 of them are available to the cleric and not the wizard, which is funny because they're a really great multi-class together, but this subclass, you can't really apply these two benefits together. Actually, with level 20 mod, you might be able to get this to work. I haven't tested it, but in theory, it could potentially work. We'll also grab another spell here, level 5. I guess Hold Monster's a nice one for certain fights. We're going to use the Cloudkill, because I've never really, it's a really hard spell to use properly. You can have like a Necromancer with zombies and things that aren't going to take poison damage, so that can be nice. Poison just kind of sucks most of the time, but we're going to make it work here. Level 11, and where we get our best spells from. Chain Lightning, Cone of Cold, or Odaluk's Freezing Sphere, and also Globe of Invulnerability are insane spells. I like to have Globe of Invulnerability in Odaluk's Sphere. This is a larger area than Chain Lightning. You can hit more targets, and it sets up a surface, so in my opinion, it's a little bit better. Some people disagree. It has less damage, but again, a surface is so powerful because it protects your team from taking damage. It's something to play around. If you're prepared for it, it can be extremely useful. And we'll prepare the following spells. You could take off Conjure Minor Elemental if you'd like. It's an option. Level 12 gives us our final choice in spells, and I'd recommend grabbing Chain Lightning there. I also really like Wall of Ice. It works well here because, it's a concentration, but it's a good one. It got fixed in patch 8 to make it even better. We're going to prepare Globe of Invulnerability, though. This spell is insane. I like to prepare the following, but we can also throw on Chain Lightning or something else by taking an intelligence increase. Alternatively, the Tough Feat for more health can work. Spell Sniper for the extra crit range, and Eldritch Blast can be nice too. But I think that this works well with an increase to our intelligence. And that is the Silver Shade Veil of Ithil from Nexus Mods. So for our gear options, the Robe of the Weave is our late game best choice. Early game, however, the only really good one is the Protectee Sparks Wall and going with the Jolt Shooter. Otherwise, you don't really have great options. Always have Mage Armor prepared. There's also the Cat's Grace item as well that you can go with until we get a little bit higher when we got things. You could, I guess, also cheese the Helldisk Armor if you wanted to in Act 1. It's honestly the best armor, but not advisable to do that. Yeah, best available robes is always going to be whatever you got at hand at the point in the game that you're at. The robe will use being the best of the end game. I would also recommend stocking up a scroll of mage armor every time that you're going to any vendor, because it just saves you from having to prepare it, which is nice because gold is easy to come by in this game. Now, we can use multiple different items here. The Hat of Fire Cutie is going to be the best choice because that just boosts up our spell save DC by a ton by using Scorching Ray. So that means that we can land our Chain Lightnings and Oluk's Freezing Sphere a little bit easier, or Hold Person, or whatever really you want to use. So yeah, that's good for boosting up. If you wanted, you could also use the Hat of Stormside's power to focus on thunder damage. Early game, the Haste Helmet works great as well. And the pointy hat actually fits if you're the face of the party, adding to your persuasion checks equal to your intelligence modifier. However, the Hat of Fire Cutie just works well. We're going to Fire and Ice theming here because we do have kind of all of that together. We got Create Water, which pairs well with the Gloves of the Winter's Clutches, so this will apply 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost on the enemy whenever we deal cold damage, so that we can stack this up on the enemy and then freeze them by dropping water. It's kind of cool. And then we also got our Helldust boots here. There's the Boots of Striding, Minthara's boots in the early game, which makes it so you can't slip when you're concentrating. Pair that with our level 10 Focus Concentration ability. You're not breaking your concentration. This was good too, because this basically makes it so we can't be moved and ignore difficult terrain. It's a late game item. There's also the Disintegrating Nightwalkers. And the Boots of Stormy Clamor work well because they proc off of our gloves. I'm going to go with this here though, just for safety. I also have the Snowburst ring here because we're going to deal cold damage. You can end up chaining a lot of ice surfaces, although we do have most of their spells being able to apply ice surfaces on their own, so that's not fully necessary. With things like the Coruscation ring being nice, or even the Callous Glow ring, so we're going to get additional damage off. The Coruscation ring can be really nice for just debuffing the enemy when we're lit up by a light source. Since we got a lower armor class, I like to have the Ring of Protection there and the Aim Litigator Health to boost up our health and survivability. And the Hellrider Longbow for that +3 to our initiative. I also got this Staff of Spell Power because it comes with a free cast, which means that we can get our elementals for free. And as mentioned, we want to use that Water Elemental because their main punch attack will set up Chilled, meaning double cold damage, and they actually are quite mobile because they do have a teleport, but make sure you're using that normal punch attack. It also sets up Water, which pairs well with this setup. And since we took an intelligence increase last, don't forget to prepare your last spell. And I'm also going to throw on Marka Heshker. This is a really fun staff because of Kreska's favor here. I like either the Frost of the Dark Winter to apply Encrusted with Frost, or the Bolts of Doom, which adds lightning charges so we can get even crazier damage off on Scorching Ray when we're setting up. This is a really fun build, and it also adds a little bit extra lightning damage. Alright, so we can actually set up outside of combat with our good old-fashioned Cloudkill. However, you do have to have a cleric on your team that can use Hero's Feast. This will make it so you cannot be poisoned. Oddly enough, that poisoned means poison from Cloudkill. It doesn't mean poison from other attacks. It just means poison from this particular one for whatever reason. So we're going to take advantage of it because otherwise we're not a true Conjuration Wizard. This is the highest damage option that we got other than Everett's Black Tentacles. You can use that instead if you want to, but this is nice because we can all just camp out in it and we're not getting hurt by it. So the thing is, we got to get our spell save DC up higher so we can actually attack from here, and it's considered attacking from the shadows, which will give us a increase in our chance to hit, which is nice because that's going to boost up our chance of being able to apply the debuffs. We got our lightning charges there. I was able to take out both targets actually, which is crazy. But the reason that I wanted to start off with that maneuver is we added a +10 to our spell save DC. So we took it from 19 to 29, which is insane, meaning we're not missing any of our spells now. If we didn't have Cloudkill down on the ground, we could drop a Hold Person or a Hold Monster, but other than that, we are now going to land every single spell pretty much, so we can go ahead with, we can move our Cloudkill around if we want to, because you get a free one of those per turn. My recommendation is we want some, like for our final action, we want to be able to crowd control in some capacity. So I'm going to just throw a Odaluk's Freezing Sphere over here, which will hit the back line, apply Radiating Orbs, and then make them slip and fall, because they'll now have to run through that to get to wherever I'm at. And then we'll just end off our turn here. I do have a bonus action, so I could use Illithid abilities if you had that, or use Misty Step, but I think we're fine. And the reason that we put down Ice is that we can hopefully make them slip, because our spell save DC is boosted, so they're going to have a hard time with that surface. He didn't even roll the... And here's what makes our Water Elemental so good. Its punch now made that target chilled, so if we want to drop a Cone of Cold, they take double cold damage, which is nuts. They just shoved my Water Elemental, and he just reappeared. Alright, please slip, please slip, please slip. Sometimes Ice makes them lag a little bit because they're thinking about what they're going to do. They'll oftentimes just go with a range attack because they don't want to risk falling. But that's nice because it's making them use something that they're not like super amazing at. They all got encrusted with frost too, so she actually walked backwards and out of it because they didn't want to end up rolling to have to save on that. So for our second turn, if you're in the end game, you can just move Cloudkill around, but since we're late game, we can use the free chain lightning for our staff there, which is crazy because of the damage and the guaranteed hit chance pretty much since we got our Arcane Acuity boosted up. Nuts. Early game though, I do want to mention combat is Clouded Daggers, really, because this is guaranteed damage. You can put it in a particular area and then kite the enemies through it. So we got lots of options when it comes to like early game fights and things like that. We also have a lot of really great range with things like Lightning Bolt being able to sometimes hit multiple targets. If I had another action, I would drop it, I'd put Create Water on the enemies here, but I already cast a spell this turn. That was more than enough, hitting in a straight line with the Odaluk's Freezing Sphere, already warming them up. Again, I could use a bonus action even on things like Mind Blast, but I'm just going to skip out on that. We now have our Water Elemental in the same load order. I could have probably used this a little earlier and then used the cold damage setup from it. It would have been really well. And there's the Cloudkill damage. They just ran into it. Since we have Call the Weak, it actually triggers that while we're using Cloudkill. So when the enemy's turn, they can end up taking some massive damage themselves. So yeah, don't underestimate Cloudkill. It's kind of crazy. Normally not that crazy, but this time it is. And we're just not super likely to get the shove off, but you can sometimes shove them into the clouds, or even an Eldritch Blast. Now for an actual Conjuration cantrip, Acid Splash counts, it's an okay choice. Basically what we want to do is set up, I guess Arcane Acuity is not a bad thing to have at max stacks at all times. So Scorching Ray is a really good damage option. We're not going to miss this. We have 90% chance. We got our lightning charges. I also forgot that I have the Corrosive Blood, so that does make that. Fire will eat through clouds of darkness or Cloudkill, so that's something to just keep in mind. It's not like Divinity Original Sin 2, however, where this would have been a huge explosion for the team. I have to hit this very far backline target, and they're being difficult, so I'm going to be difficult too, and we're going to drop an Ice Storm so that they end up maybe slipping and falling or getting the death condition. So yeah, that's pretty good. Well, let me know your thoughts. So that is a pure 12 Conjuration Wizard in Baldur's Gate 3. We use Cloudkill, so we actually use Conjuration, and we have some other options like Acid Splash 2 if you wanted to. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.